Good morning, beautiful friends, or good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this little chat. I'm going to try to remember and articulate what it is that I want to share, the concepts I want to share with you today. I often find it difficult to find the words to describe certain concepts or life experiences, lessons, etc. Sometimes those things are very energetic and intuitive, and you just absorb them. And then to talk about them is like this extra step of finding words to put around the experience. So I'll try my best. Recently, there was an opportunity to learn. Just give me a sec here. The lesson was when there's a setback or when we fall down, when we have a setback, not to panic. I inherited the sky is falling syndrome, as we call it, from my mother. And that is when something happens that's not so great. It's like, oh my goodness, we catastrophize, right? It's like, freak out. And then the crisis passes and everything's fine. So that freak out was completely unnecessary. So you may already have this lesson under your belt, in which case, congratulations. If this resonates with you as something that you also do, then this message may be for you. So yoga helps us to be more equanimous. Equanimous is a word that means that you're more even-keeled. I had a friend who used to call one of my ex-boyfriends Steady Eddie. His name wasn't Eddie, his name was Rob. But he was that kind of person, he didn't freak out when things went up or freak out when things went down. He was just very stable and not a yogi, not a meditator, just a mechanic, but he had this down to a T. And our yoga practice and our meditation helps us to become more equanimous. So when the bottom falls out of life or something you're doing or something that's happening and it's just like, whoo, and you feel yourself falling, free falling, the instinct to panic isn't so much at play because we see the big picture, the full cycle of how this will even out, this is going to come out in the wash. Don't panic, don't freak out. My dad always used to say that everything looks better in the morning, and he was right. At nighttime, it's a time that we don't want to take in, as if possible, anything that's much anxiety provoking or too stimulating or worrying, because everything at nighttime always seems a little bit more intense. And then in the morning, it's, those problems seem smaller. We seem and feel more able to tackle them and handle them in a good way. And so, the lesson is not to panic if things go sideways. If you take 2 steps back, it's okay. You're going to take 2 steps forward again. It's all part of the cha-cha of life, right? And our yoga helps us with that. It helps us not to go down, deep down into those dips and valleys so extremely, because it can be a wild ride. And not only is it a wild ride for us, but we take our loved ones with us. So they go on that roller coaster ride with us. And if they're not self-regulated or if they're not very equanimous, and we're not, then we're going on that wild ride with them as well. I see it here on the beach with the homeless. The beach in front of my house here in Kamloops has a lot of the homeless camps there. And people are there for different reasons, but some of the things that are happening down there involve drugs. And people are extremely self-regulated, unself-regulated, and living on the edge, right? Living rough, and life is very tumultuous. And you hear a lot of screaming. We hear a lot of sometimes domestic disputes, not all the time, but it happens. And I was talking to another member in our group. She said she lives in Valleyview, and the same thing's happening out there, right? Sometimes there'll be an altercation, and people are just screaming at each other and just losing it. And so that's the extreme, right? What we're aiming for is to be a little bit more self-regulated than that, so that we don't freak out when something goes sideways. That's pretty much the message. There was part 2 to that, but I think I'll just leave it at that for today. So the invitation from this chat is to watch your mind. I think the invitation from every chat is to watch your mind, but to watch your mind and where it goes when something perceived as negative happens around you. Do we suffer from the second arrow, right? There's the thing that's happening, and then there's the emotions and the thoughts around that cause us the extra layer of suffering. It's like you get hit with the first arrow of the thing that's happening. Okay, deal with that. And then there's all the kerfluffle in your mind, mental gymnastics that happen around that. And that's where the catastrophizing comes in. Like, oh my goodness, this is the end, what have you. So watch your mind and observe the fact that there's a part of you that's watching what's happening. There's a part of you that's watching your thoughts, watching your emotions, watching the tumultuousness, if there is any. But then there's the part of you that's doing that watching remains unchanged. It's equanimous. It's steady. It's steady Eddie. We all have a little bit of steady Eddie in us. So the invitation is to cultivate that steady Eddie. Okay, you guys are beautiful. I love you so much. You have no idea. It goes deep, deep, deep down into my heart. So much gratitude for you today. I hope you have a beautiful day and a beautiful week. Let's have fun in Zoom, and we'll see you on the flip side.